Hello, good day, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us wherever you are joining us today from. We're so honored to have you with us. For those who don't know who I am, for those who are new to my page, my name is James Weeks, and so I'm the author of the book Meditations Across the King's River, African Inspired Wisdom for Life's Journey. Um, and so I help people with strategies for emotional wellness, spiritual wellness, financial wellness. As some of you know, or many of you know, there's a new version of my book now, the second edition of Meditations Across the King's River. And there's so many different voices in the new version, especially. I'm honored to have two of them here today. And today we'll be talking about the different ways in which the spirits of our ancestors may be attempting to contact us. And so I have actually a childhood friend, classmate, Jerolyn Armstrong from St. Croix, Virgin Islands, where I am from. Um, and I have Simone Arthur from the beautiful island of Barbados, and she's a medium. So thank you both for being here today. Thank you for coming to share your wisdom. So one of the things that, again, I mentioned there's some new things in the book, is Jerlyn. She talks about messages that she receives from ancestors, from people who have passed on that are meant for other people. And just so you know, Jerlyn is the daughter of a legend in my culture. She's the daughter of a legend, and the legend is her dad who made ice cream. So you go anywhere in the Virgin Islands and you mention Armstrong ice cream, everybody knows who her family is. So Geraldine, thank you for being with us. And so, do you mind telling us like how this began with you? This gift that you have began.
To be honest, I really don't know. I think probably I just wasn't cognizant, um, and wasn't aware of what it was that was happening over time. Um, and I think it became obvious when it was my dad that I got a message for, and I took the message to him and my mom, and they understood it. I did not understand the way, and I guess I would discuss it with my mother more than anything. And I started becoming aware at that point.
So when
So
you say you started to become, so like, were you shocked when this happened the first time? So the first time, so tell us this. So tell us exactly what you saw in the dream the first time that this happened, so the audience could get a better understanding of
well,
what that dream was
I'm
about.
not sure that it was the first time, but I dreamt of a doctor coming and talking to me and telling me to go and tell my father a certain thing. I can't tell you what it was because I really don't remember. But when I woke up, it was more not like a dream, but more like it actually happened. But this doctor had died, so I know it had to have been a dream. Um, and so I went and told my parents, and they understood the message. It was kind of cryptic to me, whatever his choices were and whatever. Um, but my mother understood it immediately. And then she kind of like turned to my father and said, "You understand what the message is, right?" And he didn't answer. And she was like, "Yeah, you understand." Whatever. But they still didn't tell us that, he had been diagnosed with cancer at that point. And so
Oh,
I guess maybe that was part of the lack of awareness of what was happening at that moment. And then when he died, and everybody actually had on the clothes that I saw in the dream and all that, um, it was just kind of weird. It just it was just really weird. Um, I even saw the people in the street who were having the triathlon that morning, and I even saw the people in the street, and my aunt being stuck for a moment, not being able to come to the house. I saw everything. So it just, I mean, it happened that way.
wow! And then I'd like to get Simone's perspective on this. So then let me ask you this. So then after that, did it started happening more often, where you started to receive dreams for other people?
Yes. I got a message for one of my coworkers, and I went to her desk that morning and I was explaining, and she said, "Well, who was this person?" And I said, "I don't know the man, but I described him to her." And she said, "Oh, that's my father." And I was like, "Ooh." When I got to St. Joseph, I think was the first time I met this young lady, and then I never saw her again until we were all working at the refinery. Um, so when she said that was her dad, I know he had died many years before, and she understood the message immediately, and she said, "He's correct." And I said, "Well, I don't really want to know the story." And she said, "No, no, no, I can tell you." And she explained, and I said, "Okay, well, this is the message that he gave for you." So, that was pretty easy. I did get one for my best friend from her husband who had died. But his dream was really crazy because for me, it was really real. I saw everything. It was just, it was a little crazy. And then I did not want to give her the message because I know how she feels about talking about dead people. But it was a message that part of it, I really wanted to give her. So I did. And I was quite happy at the way she received it. And then she was like, "Tell me everything. I want to know everything." So I did. But.
So, and then I believe you told me that now these days you keep a notebook by your bed in case you
Yes,
receive
I
messages.
always, yeah. Uh-huh. Yes. So I write down when I wake up, I write it down because if I go back to sleep, I won't remember it. When I get up, more than likely, I won't
Yeah.
remember it. So I write it down.
And so one of the key things I hear from you, you told me before, is you feel like it's not your job is only to pass on the message, not to try
Yes,
to interpret the message, but just to
correct.
pass on what it is you
Yes.
received. And
Hmm.
I thought that was very profound. So I have one more question that I want to ask Simone to step in. So when this started happening for you, did this alarm you in any way? Did you feel like
No,
no? Okay.
no. I mean, I'm happy to do it. I mean, one of my daughters asked me, "Why are dead people always visiting you?" And I was like, "I don't know why. Absolutely, I have no no reason to give." But yeah, I'm happy to do it whenever it happens because I just figured that it's a message that the person needs or wants or whatever. I figure there's a discussion or something. There's some reason that I'm getting this message for the person. So I just go and give it. I don't think about it. After that,
Okay.
I'm finished with it.
All right. Hello, everyone who's joining us. Hello, Jerome. Hello, Detra. Hello, Renee, Goddess Smith. Thank you all for joining us. So, Simone, I mean, would you like to talk about like your reactions to what Jerolyn is saying, but then also talk about your own experiences? I'd love to hear your thoughts on, my friend's gift and your everything that she said so far, as well as your experience, how your gift unfolded.
I like your daughter's question, like, why are dead people always coming to you? I think that is hilarious. But I get those questions all in the beginning before I reveal to the public and family and friends that I had this gift. Um, that was one of the questions that came up. Why you? And I was like, why not me? Somebody has to be able to do this type of work. And if the powers that be see it fit that you are it, then you have to work through that. There's nothing else you can do about it. I remember there were times um, me struggling with the fact that I had to carry this, and my spiritual life was blossoming. My gift was opening up, and it was expanding and becoming more intense and detailed. But my professional and personal life was a wreck, and I couldn't understand why there wasn't a balance between the two. And it's only now I understand why it couldn't be a balance, because I had to prioritize one over the other. My spiritual life had to lead the way and everything else behind it. I couldn't put my professional life or my personal life in front of me to guide me, because it was complete and utter chaos. So I had to lead with spirit and lead with my gift and lead with my understanding and wisdom from the other side, and um, and the knowledge. You know, I love your story because you get your information while you're asleep. For me, I get some information, but not a lot. Most of my dreams are centered around me, and I have to interpret them because most of the times they are warnings, right? Stuff I need to pay attention to, stuff is about to unfold, and also with my communication, I'm always up, I'm always awake, right? So even outside of me reading individuals, when spirit comes to me, I'm like, I could be doing anything. I could be cooking, I could be, you know, shopping in the store, hanging out with friends, and spirit would just pop up and whisper something. Now I've had to go into a conference call and a conference meeting with spirit and say, listen, well, we have to have some measure of boundaries here, in regards to how you approach me, because I still have to live. You know, there's a Simone, a woman, a daughter, a sister, an aunt underneath here, and she also has to exist in the real world. So I had to have conversations. I call them conference calls or conference meetings with spirit. And we actually, I talk about, I said, well, listen, you know, you can't just pop up on me like that. You need to give me a break. And so we have that understanding. And it is wild for some other spiritualists when I say these things, because they're like, well, how are you compromising or how are you negotiating with spirit? I said, well, I have to. There has to be a mutual understanding. Because if I'm supposed to carry out this work with people who may or may not believe, I have to have some wiggle room in how I manage that, you know? So that is one of the ways that I communicate with spirit. Um, in having given them their own personal time to communicate with me. Specifically, I usually that's like 3, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm up, and you know I'm getting instructions on. You know, I remember when I was got the message about me to do a retreat. It was 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. That's how Sacred Conversations with our ancestor was created. Me having a conversation, they're like, "We want you to do a retreat." I'm like, "I don't know anything about building out a retreat," and they were like, well, we're going to show you. And every single aspect of this ancestral experience, that's why I like to call it instead of retreat, every aspect of this ancestral experience is guided by spirit, guided by the ancestors that walk with me. That's one of the themes that I have. So, you know, that is kind of the way I manage what I have. And I'm very intrigued by your journey, Jerolyn, and you know, having to navigate your father's passing, you know, to carry that, um, you know, I find it, you know, very, it hits here because I still have both of my parents here, and I don't know what that is going to be like for me when one of them or both of them pass.
Hmm.
You know, they're aware of the work that I'm doing. They don't really talk about it. Um, at times they're not comfortable with it, but it is what it is.
Yeah. So we have a few questions in the chat, so I'll bring out a few questions, and both of you all can answer, and I'll give my 2 cents too. So I'm
Mhm.
going to bring up a few of them, and then we'll get back into your both of your stories. So one is from Cheryl Castor, and she's from the UK. She's asking, so how do you distinguish when a person who is alive comes into your dream and gives you a message? Is it their soul speaking to you, or is it a message from the ancestors, or is it your own mind? So, how do you distinguish when the person who is alive? So, if you all can see this question, if you want to comment on it, you're
Well, for
welcome.
me, I don't get messages from the living, only from the dead. So she's asking about
Yeah. Okay.
who's
And
alive.
Simone?
Yeah.
Um, it, I get a little weird stuff sometimes. sometimes the living shows up um, in my dreams or in my visions saying something. And then I go to the person. I was like, "Well, you appeared in front of me with some stuff going on. Like, what's really happening with you, right?" And then sometimes what happens is if there's a message for the person via the person's ancestor, I would see the person's face and know that the living person's face and know that this is a message for them. So it's one of their ancestors showing up with a message. Now, it could be one of their ancestors, or it could be one of my spirit guides, or one of my ancestors saying to me, "Well, Simone, um, James, we gotta tell James some stuff. James needs to know this information." So I would either hear James' name or I would see James' face, and I know, okay, so they're talking about James, Baba James Weeks, right? So my I use all of my senses to communicate with the other side. I hear them, I feel them, I smell them, I taste them, and I see them. I have all five. And when my gift manifested, it wasn't just, okay, I had one today and a few years later I get another one. I got all at the same time. So I remember the first day that my gift showed up, I was seeing and hearing and feeling all three, and I was going crazy. I was bawling. Luckily, I was in a safe space with my spiritual mother, and she was able to guide me through the process on that Sunday afternoon. And so, you know, being able to manage all these different energies as time goes on, you will know what is what, where it's coming from, and who it is for. But in order to get to that space, and I know you know both of you could speak to this, it starts with trusting what you have and trusting the message that you get, right? And even if you have questions, I always tell people, ask spirit to be wise. Question the energy. I do. Okay, so who are you? What do you want? What are you coming here for? Right? So as you grow spiritually and you trust more and you obey, it becomes easier for you to understand where the energy is coming from and differentiate between a spirit guide, an ancestor from somebody else, or your ancestor. It just becomes easier, but you got to be in it to understand it. That's how I see
Wow.
it.
So also, Simone, I was wondering, what is your thoughts as to why Jerolyn was like selected to do this? If you have any thoughts about that as to why.
Well, I strongly believe it is an ancestral thing that is passed on. Someone else in her family lineage, whether it's in her mom's side or her dad's side, I have a feeling that's on her dad's side, had this gift.
Mom, my
It
mom.
was
Hmm.
his mother
My mother, my
or
mother.
your mother. Okay.
Hmm.
And so it is, well, somebody's here saying her dad's side to her dad's side. Um, and do you have a carpenter in your family? There's somebody who's a carpenter?
Carpenter, not that I can think of.
There's a gentleman who's a carpenter. His name is Timothy. He's saying hello to everybody. I don't know who he belongs to because I don't have a carpenter named Timothy. But Timothy is here. I don't know if someone in the audience who he belongs to. I really can't see, the names on questions right now. But
Okay.
Timothy wants everyone to know that he's here and he's a carpenter. He works with wood and his hands. So I don't know who that is for, but he's been asking me for a minute to recognize him. So there you go. But what was the question again, Baba Weeks?
Um,
For ancestral.
Right.
yes.
So you really should do some research as to who in your lineage this this is something that they did. This is a gift that they had, right? And even today, this morning I had a call, and the young lady, she had a gift, and she understood it, but it was still very foreign to her. And I told her she come from a long lineage of hoodoo women who practice, behind closed doors, but they practice. And now she has the gift, and it showed up in her dreams as well. Her messages come in the dreams. So I strongly believe it is that coming back from wherever, if your peoples come from Africa, or if they were Native American, indigenous, wherever, I think it started there. So you need to look back on why your family is picked, or a particular um, person is picked. I don't know. There are some cases, whereas I've heard my spiritual mother tell a story that a woman came to her, and this is a public thing she discussed, so it's not like her revealing anything. A woman came to her, and her mother-in-law died. And as soon as her mother-in-law died, she got the gift. And her mother-in-law's children was upset, like, why is she able to do this? And the mother-in-law was coming to her all the time, talking to her, giving her all the messages and instructions. And she asked my spiritual mother, why is this happening to me? And she said, my spiritual mother said, she told her, because the woman could trust you. She can't trust her own children. They'll be doing it for greed, for money, to take advantage of you. This is woman talking about her own children. But for you, you'll be sincere. You'll be honest. You'll walk with integrity. So, yeah.
And here's the answer to the Timothy statement you said. So this is from Diana Johnson. And what Diana is saying, that Timothy added the patio to my parents' house.
Ooh.
Very gifted. I was young. So there is the
Ooh.
answer. So Timothy was added the patio, you know, and she
Wow.
just, yes. So that's
And what
so,
is her name? I can't see. I'm sorry.
Diana Johnson. Diana Johnson. I'm
Diana
not sure.
Johnson. I encourage you to honor Timothy. Um, I don't know if you know anything he liked to eat, where he's. I'm assuming he's passed, because he's hearing that energy. Like, to go to his, if you're comfortable with it, to go where he's buried, and give an offering, or maybe his favorite food, or some flowers, or honor him in some way. Yeah, but blessings. That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then we have a question here from Cindy, and her question is, let me show it. One second. Her question is, are you able, to call in any specific ancestor to communicate with you, and if so, how? That's her question.
Is that for me or for?
For anybody, well, I guess for any of us, are you able to call in any specific ancestor?
Well, for me, I've never really tried it.
Mm-hmm.
Try
I
it.
never.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've never attempted anything. I just, whatever happens, happens. I just go to sleep each night. So,
Oh,
Miss
try it.
Simone is saying I need to try it.
Try it.
Mhm.
Yes, I can. Sometimes they come, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they come. I've had a few cases where they showed up, and they're like, they don't want to be a part of this. They're not comfortable with it. And, I describe them, and the client is there like, that's them, that's them. And I'm like, they don't want to be a part of this. And they leave. I've had cases where, trigger warning. This is about, um, abuse. I've had a case where I was with a client, and her abuser showed up, and I completely stopped the reading. I put a pause, and I dismissed him immediately, right?
Oh,
Because I don't think she was ready for that exchange, and I was not ready to facilitate that exchange. This was like in the early years of me, publicly reading. Um, I've had cases where I was reading, the lady and her father-in-law who had passed showed up because her husband was in the room, and the husband came, and because I was like, well, this man is here, and I could dismiss him, and she was like, no, no, and the husband refused to come in to look at me, and the father was asking questions, and he left, and then the son came back, and he was like, can you call him back? And I called him, and he showed up again. He came into the room. So sometimes for me to bring that up, I would need to get the person's name, and I go spiritual, and I says, I'm calling for this person. Yeah, can y'all step forward? And sometimes they come and sometimes they don't. I don't guarantee an ancestor is going to show up. You know, some people come to me days into the person passing, hours into the person, and I'm like, they're not ready to talk to you. You know, and they may come and say that, and they're like, I'm not ready for that. I don't. I'm still dealing with this. You know, so yes, I have the ability to do that, but it's not guaranteed all the time, to answer that question.
Yeah. And so Jerome also says that there was, so Jerome is also commenting on Timothy. He says that there was also a Timothy on his mother's side who worked with his hands. So
Uh,
there are two Timothys here.
well,
Uh,
Jerome, I encourage you to honor Timothy as well, because clearly this person is trying to get some information over on this side. I'm not going to entertain it too much because I don't, you know, that can go into a whole nother thing. But I encourage you to honor him as well. Because
mhm.
clearly, this Timothy knew both of y'all were going to be in here, and he just showed up. He just popped in.
Okay. And so here's another message. This is the second message from Cheryl. So I'll just show her question. So she's saying that okay, she has two past ancestors who come to her in her dreams, and she would like to embrace her gift. She's asking how could you advise how she can grow this gift? If there's any reading she could do. So I'll start to answer this question, and then
Mm-hmm.
you all could share your perspective. And so Cheryl, a lot of it comes back down to trusting, trusting what you are sensing, trusting what you are feeling, trusting the inspiration that you are getting, and also being, I would say, being very, very, very patient and understanding that it's just a very subtle process, and it's different for everyone. So it's about recognizing your strengths, the different ways in which you may be receiving messages, and Simone can go into that as well. So for Jerolyn, it's okay, she's receiving through dreams. But if you're not a dreamer, and a lot of people are not dreamers, like I myself, I'm not a dreamer like that so much. Once in a while I get a message in the dreams, but like for me, a lot of guidance that comes to me comes through intuition and inspiration, a lot. So it's about trusting a lot. And so what happens to a lot of us is like a lot of people, we don't trust. And then there's all this self-doubt.
Yes.
And then also the other thing that holds us back is then we don't act on guidance that we may receive. And so we look for another sign, and then another sign, and then another this and another that. And so instead of moving our lives forward, we start moving in circles
Yes.
instead of just, we'll move. How
Yes.
many times do we have to hear a certain thing? And
Yes.
so we always feel like, oh, I need to check again. Oh, I need this. And what about this? And just, so in my own journey, it's like when a guidance comes to me and I feel called to move in a certain direction, I just move in that direction and I shut the door to it. I don't go back and try to ask again. You know what I mean? It's just like, make a decision, move on,
Mhm.
and just move with faith.
Yes.
Just move with faith, and
Yes.
just trust that what you need will show up at the right time, and you don't have to know every single detail about everything all at once. Just know that. Just take this step and just keep moving. And I'd like to hear your perspectives on this question.
Well, I've also had my mom visit me in my dreams, but I think that for Sherelle, what will be great is really to write the stuff down because you can always revisit it, go back, reread, and you'll see what happens. You'll see what comes to pass. And then you can say, this is what I was being warned about. Because when your ancestors come, I think they're normally giving you a warning or giving you a heads up something is coming. So if you write it down, I think it'll be a good place to start.
I co-sign, everything that you guys have said. Um, Also, like I mentioned earlier, designate a particular time and the day that you just have for that energy, right? And it has to be every day, especially that you're now trying to create a relationship with your gift. You know, it's just like any relationship, you know, with your spouse or with your children. You have to spend time with them and give them that love. So you have to do the same thing with your spiritual gift. You know, designate a time, whether it's in morning or the afternoon or the evening, to um, you know, sit with the energy, and they will accustom to know that that time belongs to them. So anytime you slack up during that time, you'll start to feel it. Like, why am I feeling this way? Yeah, you haven't sat with your people in weeks, you know. And put a light and a glass of water, you know, both of them are portals, and just sit and talk. You know, don't look for people come, well, Simone, I can't hear anything and I can't see anything, but did you feel it? You know, everything in for you to see, everything in for you to hear, but did you feel it? Or did you taste it? Or did you smell it? I know one time I knew that there was some negative energy around me because I could smell it. No one else around me could smell this thing but me. So I knew at that point I needed to pay attention. I needed to do a spiritual bath. I needed to smoke myself out. I needed to smoke my area. Something was shifting and it wasn't shifting in the right way. Right? So and this is where I talk about the love languages. Um, and it's basically your senses. Find and trust the method in which spirit is going to speak to you. Do not think that just because Simone or Baba Weeks or you know could see or could hear, I should be able to see or hear too. And you're just focusing on that, and then you miss the other parts when spirit is trying to speak to you in your dreams or trying to. Are you feeling things but you're ignoring it? You know, so and that only comes with spending time with your gift and time with your ancestors and time with your spirit guides to fully understand what you are working with.
And so here's a comment from Baba Renee out of the Texas area. And so Baba Renee is a healer as well as a diviner in our tradition. And so Baba says, trust the process, your blessings will be on time. When you sit with your ancestors, be silent and let them talk to you. And so Charles is asking a question, and he says that if all our ancestors live in us, wouldn't we all have to give? Or, like you guys said, maybe it's just a matter of quieting your mind enough to truly listen. So, Charles, one of the things is, I'm like going back to what Simone was saying, is having some type of spiritual practice that we will do consistently, right? To make us more receptive to messages that we may be receiving. And so, one of the challenges is a lot of people don't have daily consistent spiritual practices. And so what I find, even with a lot of clients, they may get up in the day, maybe they go straight to work, and that's fine. But the point I'm trying to make is that if there is no time in the day for what Simone is saying, to sit in silence or to sit with the ancestors, then we cannot expect to be receiving messages because we're not available. It's like a cell phone. We all have cell phones, but if our cell phone is off, how could we be saying we want to receive messages, but the cell phone is off?
Correct.
It's never on. And we say, oh, but I want my message. Well, make yourself available. So in our case, as humans, we have to make ourselves available. So the issue is many times we are not available. We're watching Netflix, right? We're driving, right? We're watching Hulu. We're just watching, whatever, you know, we're trying to be in some relationship, and half the time those relationships ain't for us anyhow, right?
Hello.
Right. So we're doing all of these things, but except making ourselves available. And so we have to make ourselves available. If we want help, be available for the help, right? Yes.
All right. So I need to plug in my phone because it's the battery.
Okay.
So
Okay. We
just
wait.
just continue, but I'm just going to plug in my phone.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
And so Diana is saying that she became afraid of her gift. Um, her her prayer watch was 3 a.m. and she could hear so clearly. She became afraid of her gift. Um, is it, Geraldine, do you want to comment to respond to that statement that she became afraid of her gift?
All I could say is, wow. Um, I don't know. I mean, if you could hear it so clearly, wow. You gotta set the fears down. You gotta set them down. You gotta make that mental thing and just say, I'm going to accept this. And I mean, it's for your better, I think. So lay the fears down. God did not give you a spirit of fear. So lay it down.
Right. Um, so I love that. We can't, what she said, we can't, this whole thing of fear is like Geraldine saying we have to let go. And,
Hmm.
especially not just especially in 20, we're in 2024, right? If we
Yes.
want to get the most out of 2024, we cannot, be fearful of everything. And so what I find too in spiritual spaces is, I find people who are so fearful. They're afraid of this. They're afraid of that. They want to take a trip. They're afraid of taking the trip. They want to be in a relationship. They're afraid of the relationship. They want to have a new job. They're afraid of the new job. Everything is some fear. But how is fear helping us? It's not helping us.
It's not.
If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But we have to, like Geraldine is saying, let go of fear. So Anissa is asking a question, and she's saying, "What are strategies for a busy person who is always surrounded by people? I have a husband who likes personal closeness. I have a teenage son. I am a teacher at high school. She needs help." So Anissa, what I will say to you, and I'll allow them to comment, is, well, you are a busy person and you are always surrounded by people, but this is your life. This is what I would say to you. This is your life, and you have to make yourself available for you, for your own well-being, and because if you are not available for you, you are probably barely going to be available for these other people anyway, right?
Hmm.
So in 2024, your mantra would be making space for you,
Hmm.
and creating a life for you. Because if you're not creating a life for you, honestly, then you're not going to have much of a life. You're going to have, right? Well, where is your life? And to me, that's the question for you. If you're doing all these things, right? Your husband has his needs, but you have needs too. And
Hmm.
part of your needs would be your own wellness, right? Your emotional wellness, your spiritual wellness, finding out more about what it is you want to experience out of life um, this year, and what happens to a lot of people, especially women, I would say, is so much of your life you just give it away to other people, and then
Yep.
honestly have nothing to show for it. Where is your life? I mean, what is making you happy? We did making everybody else happy. Well, where is your happiness? You know, Geraldine, comment on this?
Yeah, I mean, I can say when my kids were younger and living at home, you know, you working, sometimes I would work overtime and then you come home, you're tired, you got to cook, you got to do all these things. But I gave my kids the rule at some point. Um, when I come home, I want one half an hour. Nobody talk to me, nobody say anything. I want a half an hour that I'm just going to go in my room, close the door, whatever. And whatever I'm going to do, it's not your business, but I need a half an hour. So if I'm going to lay down, whatever I need for me to keep going through the night, that's what I'm going to do. There's that saying of putting on your oxygen mask first, because you can't serve everybody until you take care of you. And it is so true. It is so true. So take that time when you come home, tell your husband, your child, whatever, I need some time for me, and this is what I'm going to do. So
Right.
you got to make it work.
Yeah, and so Simone, we were responding to Anissa's Newman's question about she's busy, she's surrounded by people all the time, she has a husband who likes personal closeness, you know, what type of strategy? And so what we were saying to her was, well, making that time. And Timothy Allen, hello, Tim from Synchroicing. Thank you for being with us. And Tim is saying here that we always, Tim says we always have free time in the shower or tub and such things. So Simone, I'd like to give you a chance to respond to when he says comment about how does she find the time? What are the strategies for a busy person to develop spiritually?
Well, apologies for me cutting out there just now. Well, this is a little deeper than creating a relationship with your spiritual side. This is about you setting boundaries in your life. So let's start there. You know, you have all of these connections to you, but you need to set boundaries where you let individuals know that you need time for yourself. So outside of, let's put that spiritual piece aside, whereas you don't know how you'll be able to carve out that time because you have all these people pulling from you. We first have to look at how you have all this energy from other folks coming from you, but how are you taking care of yourself? Am I making sense?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Everybody
Yes.
we
a
kind of said
little
the same
quiet.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
it goes a little bit deeper than, how like you don't have boundaries with your own life. So let's start there.
Yeah.
Wow. And so here's another question. This is from SK. I'm not sure what her full name is. Uh, so she's saying that she keeps getting messages too fast, and then her question is, does fasting connect us more with our ancestors or spirit? And so what I would say, and then I'll allow them to share their perspectives. If you are getting messages to fast, it might be that that's for you. It doesn't mean necessarily that it's for everybody should be fasting or that in general fasting is good for everybody to do. But for you, it could be that it will help you with your physical health, emotional wealth, and it may help you connect better to spirit. So that's instruction for you to do. But it doesn't mean necessarily that it's universally that way. Um, Simone and Geraldine, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when you fast, I think you get more connections with spirit, but that's just me. I don't do too much fasting for other reasons, for medical reasons, but yeah, when I do, I find, I mean, you take that time to pray at more or whatever, but you get more connections.
Fasting doesn't work for me with connecting. I gotta eat. Before I start my day to read, I have a big breakfast. And then how I have my schedule set up, I have a time, like I have an hour between calls. So in that hour, I drink water, I go outside and I ground and I eat. I have like I prepare lunch ahead or a snack ahead or something ahead or have a piece of fruit or something. I gotta eat because I travel a lot with my reading. I travel a lot with my reading. Like today, I went to Honduras, I went to Mexico, I was in Mississippi, I was in North Carolina. Like I travel all these places, right? And it takes a lot from me. So I have to eat. I tried that fasting and connecting, and they're like, "Girl, we don't go get something to eat because we can't. This growling stomach thing ain't work." That's the ancestors talking to me, right? So for me, I have to eat, and I know some people say I was in when I was on Clubhouse. I'm not on that app anymore, and I was in this room, and this person was saying, "You really shouldn't go and get a reading from somebody who eats meat." And I'm like, "Huh? I just had some oxtails." So I don't. The prescription is not for everybody. It's not a one size fits all. You once you form that relationship with your spirit guide, with your ancestors, and you start to trust, they will tell you what you have to do, right? And how you were supposed to do it. And just know it's not a one size fits all. I have been through rituals where I'm like, to put it in layman terms, like a shut in, right? For 6 nights. and we were fed small meals. But as the days went on, the meals got bigger. But because I have framed my mind to know that, all right, I'm just going to get a hot cup of tea and some crackers and a little fruit, my body adjusts to that. And then I'm able to go into the spirit world. But there's this understanding still that Simone has to eat something, you know, and that ritual is called mourning. It falls under a faith that, is widely practiced in the Caribbean, mainly in Trinidad and Tobago. It's called spiritual Baptist. So we go into mourning and its inclusion for 6 nights. Our eyes are bandaged up and our heads are covered, and it goes into a lot of stuff. But the meals are small because you're just in the space. You're either lying down, you're sitting up, and you're traveling, right? So the spirit doesn't want you too heavy in moving around. But as the days go on and you're building your strength, the meals get a little bigger. But you will have to know what works for you. If fasting works for you, by all means do it. Just make sure that you're doing it in a safe way.
Mhm.
Okay. And Jerome says that these different experiences with fasting show how important it is to be sensitive to ourselves and the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, Simone, you have a retreat coming up. You do these retreats, I guess, several times a year. Could you tell us more, like, what are your objectives? I mean, your hopes for people when you are doing these retreats?
Well, the retreat is called Sacred Conversations with Our Ancestors, where I create a space, physically and spiritually, for individuals to come in and really focus on connecting with their ancestors. So when you've made the decision to come to this retreat, this year we're going to have it from May 2nd to 6th, um, here in Barbados. And once you've made the decision to come, the spirit already starts to talk to you and starts to talk to me about what to expect. And coming into this, already you're looking to make a connection with your ancestors. And for them to tell you what they want from you. And for you to tell them what you want from them. I tell people this is not a rock and roll retreat. We don't go bar hopping, we don't go restaurant hopping, we don't go do all those things. You come to retreat. As you land in Barbados, you're dressed in all white. And when you leave, you're dressed in all white. The entire duration of the ancestral experience, you're in all white. And simply because the energy of what white is. We know colors attract all types of energy. So we want calm, we want balance, we want clarity, to be present, so you can hear, feel, and taste or smell your ancestors to get these messages. So when you leave this ancestral experience, you leave with instructions as to how are you to conduct your life spiritually, financially, emotionally, professionally, even. We've had people leave the retreat and go back and quit their jobs, and within weeks got another one. You know, personally, we've had some folks made the decision. My marriage is done. My marriage is over, and their life just opened up because they finally made the decision. The ancestors come and say to them, "Listen, this and this and this is happening. You're seeing this unfold. We are showing you all of this. These are why you need to make these changes, and there are no distractions. We don't have there's a lot of downtime at the retreat. So you have no choice but to make the connection. The resort is up a hill. It's facing the Atlantic Ocean. And if folks are familiar with the geography of Barbados, we're the most eastern of the Caribbean, and that's the Atlantic Ocean on the side that the retreat is held. And if you sail from that coast in Barbados, you can sail from there straight into Africa without seeing or touching any landmass. So we have that whole stretch of energy with our ancestors that are part of that ocean bed for you to connect with. And on the last day, we take our offerings and we go to the water, and you spend some time there at the water, pleading your supplication, as Christians would say, asking for forgiveness, asking for them to walk beside you, left and right, front and back, and really solidify that connection. And that is what we hope that our participants leave with. It's been so far so good for us. We've had some people come back and say, because my first one was in May 2022, and I would still get calls. Okay, Simone, this happened to me at your retreat, and now it makes sense. It makes sense today. It is now unfolding today. I understand why the ancestors said what they had to say to me then. And before we get, once you retreat, you come in on the Thursday, on the Friday, we do a full cleansing of your body. We give you a bush bath. You pick your herbs. You intuitively pick the herbs. We give you a bush bath. Then we oil you down. And then we take you at the back of the resort and we smoke you out. So we're just trying to remove all of that stuff that is on you, but also to replenish. And we ask you to intuitively pick the herbs, because based on the intentions of the herbs, or what the herbs spiritually mean, is what the ancestors is trying to give to you or take away. So we've at one time had a lady who's now been initiated on the Oya. It keep coming up for her intuition, her working with that. And so, days and weeks and months afterwards, all of that started to manifest for her. So we give you the information, what the ancestors are telling you need to work with and to work on, and you leave, having a full layout of what it's to look like. Whether you go and do the work or not is up to you. That's not up to me. I did my part. I provided the space. But the intentions is for you to get closer with your ancestors and to learn to trust and obey what they're telling you.
It's very profound. So Goddess Spirit is asking a question: is how do you feel about charging for your gifts? So Goddess, I will respond to that, and Simone can answer as well. So Goddess, the reality is that people who are doing this work, I mean, us, we have to survive. I mean, there's no if buts, and so we cannot, expect people who have certain gifts to just do it all day or all night and not be compensated. This is survival. People have electricity bills to pay like anybody else, grocery bills like everybody else, gas bills like everybody else, and there's simply no way for people who have certain skills or gifts to just work just for free just because. I mean, they have to be supported like any other craft or profession. And then the reality is, a lot of the work that we do, people who do spiritual work, comes out of a space of love and a lot of giving too. And the reality, and still, there's a lot of times when we may do work that we're not really compensated for, but we do it because we're service oriented. But there has to be a compensation. There has to be a two-way street. You know, Simone, your comments?
This is all I can do. I have tried to do both. Have a job, a regular 9 to 5, and this. I'm still waiting for HR, human resources, or whomever to respond to my resume. I don't get responses. I don't. I have a degree in television and radio production. This and all of this, I'm saying to you, happened before my gift manifested. I have a degree in television and radio production from the City University of New York. I have interviewed with NBC, ABC, CBS, CNN, Time Warner, New York One. And each and every time, it is not that I failed at the interview. When it's time to go to the next step, something happens. I interviewed at NBC. I got the letter in the mail. Simone, we want you to call us to book your interview. We're very interested in working with you. Come on board. It was this full program they had for individuals who just graduated. I was elated. This was my dream. And I called and they had closed off all interviews. Why? They had the anthrax threat and they had shut down everything. Remember when they were sending all this stuff in the envelopes and going through the mail? I got caught up in fact, I got a piece of mail and I didn't even think about, because they NBC had a threat. And I opened this mail and I'm all like, it's only until afterwards I'm like, oh my God, did I really check this envelope? You know? And that got shut down. I got interviewed by 60 Minutes. I don't know if you all remember that show, 60 Minutes on CBS. It used to come on every Sunday with Bradley. Ed Bradley was his name, that tall, dark, handsome man.
Yes.
And I interviewed with 60 Minutes. Gone in my suit, I interviewed with the executive producer. When I looked to my left, there was Ed Bradley walking down the hall. I was like, this is it. This is it. I'm arrived. And then she said to me, she said, Simone, I love you. I want you a part of this team. But the role I want to put you in, I promised the guy, if he didn't like where he was going to, he can come back. Best believe he came back. And that was the end of it. And I could go on and on and on about these different experiences. But as I look back now, that was Spirit just shutting all of those doors, because that's not what I was supposed to be doing. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. So if this is going to be my everyday thing, I have to be compensated. Because like Bamba said, I have bills to pay. You know? Outside of that, I gotta go and buy Florida water sometimes. I gotta go and buy white rum. I gotta get certain things to keep myself spiritually clean, to service you, to read you, so I could connect with the right ancestors and not, bring Blow Joe ancestors into Nina Joe's reading. I get everything confused. I have to have these things to clean myself. And, we had COVID, and now, folks now are just using the digital platform to read. I got to pay Zoom every month. I could get it for free, but we could only stay on that call for 45 minutes. You may get up in the middle of the night and say, shoot, I need to talk to Simone. And you book me that night. I got to pay that app. So you have access to book me. Right? So it's all these different things. It comes down to money. I mean, if you want to find me, a nice, rich, handsome man, to take care of everything, and I just sit there and read all that, hey, I'm open to that. But that's not how it's going to work for me either, because that's not in my chart. As the morology people would tell you, Arthur, that's not in my chart. So, yeah, you got to pay.
Absolutely. So June is asking a question. June is a good friend. June, thank you for joining us today. June is in the Connecticut area. So she's saying that lately she's been having dreams of not being able to find her car, and she's not sure what that means. So open to your thoughts.
You can't find your car? Have your car spiritually cleaned. Let the mechanic check it out, give a full body work, make sure everything is in order, and then have your car spiritually cleaned. If you don't have anyone, you can do it yourself. But this is where you have to trust the process. So you can find some herbs and some protection herbs.
Yeah. And so for those who are joining us for the first time, if you came in late, so Jerolyn Armstrong, who's a childhood classmate, and Simone, they are new voices that appear in the second edition of my book, Meditations Across the King's River, which first became available just 3 weeks ago. So the new version of the book has many voices here and there throughout the book. So I'll be doing these Facebook Lives to give you more insight into who they are and what they're saying and why it's important, and how their messages and who they are can help us navigate through life. So if you don't have the second edition of this book yet, we'd love your support, because we'll be having ongoing conversations about these various topics. Let me see. Cheryl is asking another question, and her question is, what do you call a person who receives messages and dreams from people who have passed on? Are they also called a medium? And I would say yes. I think it's a form of mediumship, but there are just many different types of mediumships. There are some mediums who are what they call physical mediums, where they may not be dreaming, but they bring forth other spirits are speaking through their body. So there are many different types of mediumship. And what I would say is it also depends on how the ancestors want to use you. So it's not always up to us how we are used, right? It's how they feel we might be most effective. And I'd love your thoughts, Geraldine or Simone.
Well, yeah, I mean, I agree with you. It's what they want to do from the other side. I don't know.
Oh, um, yeah. You just I don't get too much in titles. You know, just do the work. I that's just me. You know, people ask me, "Are you initiated?" I'm like, "Yeah, I am an Ianifa. I Ia Simone, Ia Labake." I got another title coming down the pipeline. I'll tell you all about that later. But the titles to me don't matter. Just trust and obey. Just sit in who you are and trust what is being given to you. And if it is you have to pass on the message, pass it on. You cannot be focused on how the person is going to respond. I've had cases where I had to out myself to people who are not believers. And I had to give them, I remember I had to give a message to my next door neighbor. I lived in Brooklyn, 150 Crown Street. And her husband just passed. And I called her and I lied. And I said, "Well, I had a dream." She says, "Uh-huh." Trinidadian. She says, "Simone, will you dream?" I was like, here we go. An older Trinidadian woman. And you know these West Indian women, they're very, when you come with certain things, guard up. They go 20 questions. By the time I done, she says, "Well, you are very accurate. He come to you. We ain't going to nobody else. He ain't even come to me yet." And he came with instructions. And this was he didn't used to talk to me. He was shaking. Yeah, that's it. Nothing else. But he trusts me enough. And that's the next thing. That's the other thing. If these ancestors who are not yours show up to you, they trust you. You are in a very prime position. They trust you to give the message as it is and not to embellish. And even with in giving the messages, you should also, when you get a message, to vet it. And this is where you got to trust your intuition and trust your discernment. When I get messages, which is few and far in between, so when somebody called me and says, "Simone, I had a dream about you," I listen in quick because I do not get these things often. And I vet it and I ask questions, not to be confrontational or not to second guess the person, but maybe to get clarity. And I tell the person, "Well, if you don't know, just tell me." "Well, Simone, you don't know, I don't even understand, and that's okay. Just say you don't know, but don't worry about the titles. Just sit in who you are and trust it.
Okay. And so Timothy says that, let me see, he says that
Name is very popular today.
yes, yes, that when he pays for a service, I am telling the ancestors and myself that I am worthy of the ancestors, if that makes sense. And yes, I mean, why not? I mean, why not make that investment in, because you're investing in emotional wellness, right? And you're just investing in who you are as a person. So I totally agree with that. So we're
I have
almost, go ahead.
one other thing. Oh, sorry, Baba, are you finished?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. No, no, go ahead.
So is Baba Rennie still in the space? Do you see him?
Let me see if he's still here. Well, I don't know if he would still be here.
Okay.
Baba Rene, are you still with us?
Do
Um,
you know him personally?
I do. Well, I met him through Baba Femi, so I met him. Yeah, I
Ah,
do. I do know him. Yes, yes.
there's someone named Errol attached to him that he needs to have a conversation with. I don't know if Errol is present or has passed on, but
Mm.
if you let him know that, um, because he's like, well, you talk about Timothy. I want to mention me too. So Errol is attached. From my how what I'm feeling, he's attached to Baba Rene.
Okay. I don't know if
So
he,
yeah, just note that please, because I don't know him personally.
okay. I will let him know. I don't know if he's
Thank
still with us, but I will let him know.
you. Okay.
So we're almost, well, it was a little bit after the hour mark. So Simone, if anyone wants to get in touch with you, how would they do that?
Well, you can find me at readingsbysimone.com. That's my website. All the information about the retreat is there. All the information about my services are there. I have a 7-week course called Spirituality and Your Ancestors. It's a one-on-one course where we discuss, how to connect with your ancestors. But, spirituality, we talk about um, um, cleansing, spiritual cleansing, making your own bush bath, your bush tea, smoke as a cleanse. We talk about the use of spiritual candles and how you can use that, and how to interpret the flame. We talk about spiritual wellness tools, grounding, meditation, journaling. We talk about the love language, the clairs, clairvoyant, clairsentient, clair audio, all those things of using those methods to communicate with your ancestors. So more information about that is on my website. If you're interested in the retreat, again, it's from May 2nd to 6th this year in Barbados. So you'll be flying into the island. If you want to spend a few days afterwards, that is fine. You can hang out. I suggest you do it after the retreat and not before. When you come on the island, I really want you to be focused on what you're going to be doing in your connection. I'm also on Instagram, Readings by Simone, Facebook, Readings by Simone, LinkedIn, and X, which was formerly Twitter. Um, and there I just share the information. I also have a line of candles. I just released one called the Wisa, which was a floral scent that was in celebration of my birthday. The next one I'm going to release is called Etta, and that is honoring Women's History Month. That will come out in March. And then we'll have one for Mother's Day and then one for Father's Day. So it's a different line and a different scent celebrating these um, different holidays for the year. Um, I'm a medium, I'm a spiritualist, an intuitive reader, but I am Simone. And I love chocolate and French fries and fried chicken wings.
Simone from the Caribbean, our
Wait,
Caribbean sister.
say that again, Baba. I didn't hear
I
you.
said Simone from the Caribbean, our Caribbean sister. Yes.
Yes. And when I come to, is your dad's ice cream still around?
Yes.
Okay, good. Because I love ice cream. So Haagen-Dazs is my favorite. And then Tilanti. So that is on my list to try unless I'm ready. Like your daddy's my daddy now. So we share. Ice cream alone had me, so we're good.
So Jerolyn, do you do any consultations of any kind?
No, no, I do
She does
not.
not. Okay. All
Not
right.
yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
By the time I finish with you, gonna be doing something.
I'm gonna reach out to you.
You really should, because I be sitting like when I'm like, okay, go and talk to her. She could, yeah. You have to. You should. You really should. You really, really should, because your energy is authentic and you work with integrity and you trust what you get and they trust you. So why not? We're not going to leave you up there. Like, you got to come and join the club, man. Come and join the peculiar people in an organized fashion.
Yes.
Let me stop.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us today. We will have another conversation with these two lovely Caribbean sisters, and we'll be sharing more insight. And again, these are two of the new voices, two voices that appear in the second edition of Meditations Across the Kings River. Again, if you don't have this book yet, we would love your support. There are so many powerful voices in the new version throughout the book in various places, and I'll be bringing them on so that they could expand more on things that I shared in the book but couldn't go more so into detail. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Simone.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Babu,
Jerolyn.
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you for everything. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye bye,
Okay,
everyone.
bye.
Okay.